Good morning. Welcome to the latest episode of the Bitcoin Morning Brief with Tone Vays. I'm Leah Wald, and today we're actually going to keep it to about 20 minutes. So, Tone, after the big interview with Cliff High, how did it go? I'm definitely going to try to get your thoughts on that later.
It was very interesting, and we'll see. Oh man, this 20-minute promise, I think we're already going to fail, so I'm just going to let you start.
All right, sounds good. Going straight into screen share. Okay. I'm going to talk about that later. So Japan's third largest electric provider is testing Bitcoin on Lightning. So it's very interesting. Chobu Electric Power Company, who has 15,000 employees and more than 200 power generation facilities, has entered into a proof of concept with the local Bitcoin and IoT startup Nayuda, and is using Lightning to test new payment methods for customers to pay for charging electric vehicles. So I'm actually just going to go straight to one quick quote that I think's brilliant. So it wasn't just Chobu and Nayuda involved in the test. To show one way Lightning can work for IoT, the two companies hooked up a Lightning node to an electronic vehicle charger and plugged it into a car. From there, they also enlisted Japanese software startup Infoteria, which coded up a mobile app to bring the user experience together. Once clicking the send button, the app communicates with the charger over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, which delivers the message and turns on the power. So this is pretty cool for me because of the potential for one, major adoption of Bitcoin to be used by consumers, and two, it seems like this could really benefit the electric car industries. Tone, do you think how do you think Elon Musk is going to react to this?
Well, we're going to find out. So this is really interesting. So I read over the story this morning, and I'm going to try and be skeptical, even though it's kind of hard. Like there's nothing really wrong here other than, again, people should always be skeptical. I've never heard of either of those two startups. So I tried to look up, just making sure certain red flags didn't show up. The biggest red flag is, has either of those two startups that is working with the big company, have they ICO'd? And I actually didn't look up the second one. I looked up the first one. So if people want to do some research on this, I mean, again, if everything is working out the way the article describes, then this is great. But some skepticism has to be considered in did either of those two startups ICO'd? Is either of those two startups believe in the the unicorns and the fairy tales of Ethereum? And if they don't, then everything should be okay here. Now the idea is decent. I am a little worried about pulling up. I mean, your car has to have some, like, the Bluetooth technology and Wi-Fi technology has to be seamless here, right? I mean, when I pull up and get a tank of gas in my car, sorry guys, don't have an electric yet, don't have my Tesla. The last thing I want is to deal with Wi-Fi's and Bluetooths, right? I want to hand the guy at the fill up either my credit card or like a $20 bill, and I want him to fill up my car. I don't want any technical difficulties trying to get gas into my car so I can continue on my way. So hopefully that technology becomes seamless. Obviously, in a Tesla, you have a Tesla facility, you have a Tesla car coming in. That's going to be pretty damn seamless as far as connectivity goes. But the idea is good. You pull up, the fill up immediately knows how much money you have in your Lightning channel. It can charge you with a micropayment because it's seamless. Not that it's even necessary, right? Like, it knows how much is in your wallet. It gives you enough electricity, and then it takes the amount of money that it needs, or you approve the amount of money that it needs. But I mean, this is promising. Let's see what happens in stage 2 and stage 3. It's like those of you that read health magazines, you always hear about these stage 1, health benefits of some new test study because it's being tested on rats, and then you never hear from it again. So let's see where it goes. Someone needs to keep following up and bring us more news.
Good point. And hopefully this won't just be a lost test that we don't hear about again for years. Hopefully this does lead to greater adoption and they know how and do scale their business accordingly. All right. No legal basis to ban or limit Bitcoin mining, EU official. There's currently, this story is right here, is about no legal basis to prevent or limit energy consumption within the EU. yet is subject to EU rules that apply to energy efficiency, the power sector, and greenhouse gas emissions. The big takeaway for me here is that each government is going to have to do the calculation themselves and perhaps implement a tax or levy on energy if it gets out of hand in a certain locality, but no one has done this yet. I believe limit is actually the important word here. So this is a big step for the EU to make. Tone, at what point does the drain on electrical power because of mining become a real problem?
Okay, so become a real problem for politicians or become a real problem for humans? Those are two very different things. So I'm not a, I'm not big on man-made climate change. I think it's complete and utter nonsense by governments in order to tax more money and control more people. I believe that climate changes naturally, and because like it always has for billions of years. So I don't really see this thing as, in my mind, being a problem for humanity, but politicians will see it differently. I always find articles I don't like articles that say, like they bring up the issue to bring up the issue. It's like the government should not raise interest rates. Well, but if the government hasn't talked about not raising interest rates, why are you bringing up the topic? So this feels more like, well, if we talk about why the government doesn't have a basis for it, maybe we can nudge the government into having a basis for it. So I just don't like the style of these articles in general. And we'll see where this goes. I do think that sooner or later, governments, the first world governments of EU and US, are going to want a piece of the action. And they're going to want not only a piece of the action financially, but they're going to want to have control over mining. And what better excuse is there in the world than the fact that than climate change? Like it's going to be like climate change and terrorist financing is like their favorite scapegoats in order to get more control over the population. And this will be used. I mean, it's where it's headed. We'll see how it ends. We have no idea.
Leading into a new mining story, although with a negative take. So crypto miner Genesis hit with cease and desist order. Genesis Mining and Swiss Gold Global received a cease and desist order from the South Carolina AG's Office Securities Division for offering, quote, unregistered securities, end quote. The AG's office is considering mining contracts, aka cloud mining, to be securities. So Tone, tied back to this first story on Japan, on the EU, is it really a question of the legal dotting the I's and crossing the T's to make sure that everybody is paying regulatory fees and taxes? Or are they just playing games because they don't understand what the whole industry is about and they're worried about the power consumption issue, even though it doesn't state that in the article?
All right, so here's where it gets really interesting, right? So while on the other story, I'm against regulation, in this case, I'm for regulation. And again, here's the difference, right? I'm in full agreement with South Carolina. Now, I don't know how it's going to be enforced. I mean, that's going to be tricky. I don't know how much standing South Carolina has, not only in the United States, but also in the world. But here's the difference, right? The case with the EU, we're talking about you running your own miner, where you buy the miner, you have the miner, you're running your own miner, or you're managing a mining farm. In this case, it's not about the mining. It's about selling a contract for people to make money on that contract. And it doesn't matter if it's cloud mining or oranges. Like this is the Howie in the Hills case of Florida, where the guy was selling contracts for oranges. And then, hey, you don't have to manage the orange tree. We will manage the orange trees down in Florida. We will pick the oranges. We will sell the oranges. And then you will make money on this contract because you technically own the orange trees. We're just going to manage the trees for you. This was the Howie in the Hills case that became known as the Howie test to determine what is or isn't a security. And this is the big difference here. South Carolina is not trying to regulate mining. South Carolina is saying that when you offer a contract for people where you are going to manage those miners on their behalf, and those people have an expectation of profit from those contracts, you are in violation of securities law, if the contract you having people sign has not been registered as a security. This has not, the fact that it's a mining contract is completely secondary to what it could be any contract, like with the case of the Howey test and orange trees. Okay, so this is what people have to understand. Now, in reality, 95% of all of these cloud mining contracts and schemes, they're outright Ponzi's. Okay, there are few exceptions, like Genesis Mining, maybe, because again, I'm not at the Genesis Mining facility, so I don't know. But so far, Genesis Mining and something like BitClub Network have proven that they're not straight up, Ponzi schemes. They actually have equipment. They're actually mining, and you do, have a contract on the mining gear that they're holding for you and managing for you. Now, even if that is true, and I believe that it's true, they're still in violation. They're still probably in violation of security laws by selling those contracts to people. Now, I also feel that if you're cloud mining like Genesis Mining and especially BitClub, if it has a multi-level marketing aspect to it, then it is absolutely inevitable that you will turn into a Ponzi scheme, because your business will be financially unsustainable like every other MLM business. Like, I hate MLM businesses. So I don't see Genesis and BitClub succeeding in the long term. And when they eventually fail, it's going to be a complete fallout because they're going to turn into a Ponzi eventually. And but that's different, right? Again, them turning into a Ponzi is different than them potentially in violation of security laws, because they're selling you a contract. They're not selling you the miner. That's the difference. If they were actually delivering the miner to you for you to deal with, they would not be in this violation of South Carolina. And this is the big difference. And this is what people just can't seem to comprehend, and why I am on the side of regulation in some cases and against regulation in others. So I hope that clears it up. That's why I wanted to spend a little time on this story.
Tone, can you comment that they're speaking about 2-year investment contracts that constitute securities? Isn't this quite easy to change potentially into something else?
I guess I'm not sure that the time period lockup matters. I think even if it was no lockup period, you can leave at any time. I think it would still be the same violation, right? Because again, someone is buying, someone is entering into a contract with an expectation of profit of someone else managing a product or a commodity on your behalf. That's the problem.
Yeah. All right, moving on to our last story, which I think is actually quite cool. So, interesting to talk about. Startup TrueEX, which is a swaps execution facility operator, says that it plans to offer derivatives on Bitcoin, making it the 6th US trading venue to jump into the cryptocurrency derivatives in recent months. So they've entered into a partnership with Consensus to develop a benchmark rate for Ether as well. So this author of this article draws the conclusion that this initiative by TrueEX will accelerate the process of getting big institutional involvement and participation in the crypto space, but it doesn't say how or why. And just to note, this actually is a derivatives marketplace for digital assets. So, Tone, is this really going to be a new marketplace, and will it compete with the CME for product?
Okay, so I personally have never heard of this company. However, they are a legit company in the market space. Their niche is, I believe, interest rate swaps, which is a very niche field. I mean, there's interest rate swaps is a very serious product and massive across the world. It's got massive amounts of volume, and so many professional managers are involved because there's so much money to be made. But the average at-home investor would never, it's completely no one at home is trading this stuff. This is very, very advanced stuff. So this company's been around before crypto, and they know what they're doing in that space, in the traditional regulatory space. They're kind of like the CME, only CME's been around forever. And these guys are, I believe they started in probably 10 years ago or so. They're somewhat new to the scene, but they're fine. They know what they're doing when it comes to finance. Here's my problem. My problem is that in reading that article, I saw the words consensus. Consensus is an Ethereum, what do you call it, consulting company. The company was founded by an Ethereum co-founder who left the moment the money rolled in from the pre-sale of Ethereum. So the goal of Consensus is to promote Ethereum around the world. And you can see in that article how not only are they going to do it in Bitcoin, they're also looking to do it in Ethereum. And that's the problem, okay? So this tells me that this company, a financial company, they got either tricked or they don't understand at all the underlying technology of either Bitcoin nor Ethereum. And this is how you can cause systemic risk in the traditional financial markets, because if a company like this actually brings Ethereum to the traditional finance marketplace, then other bigger financial institutions are going to say, hey, well, we're also missing out on these Ethereum, on the returns of, having Ethereum derivatives in the traditional marketplace. And now more companies start to add Ethereum into the marketplace. And the problem is what happens? Look, Bitcoin can also fail, but the probability of Bitcoin failing is like infinitely smaller than the probability of Ethereum just outright failing. And the less systemic risk you can cause to the traditional financial markets, the better off the world is going to be. So any traditional company that is considering bringing Ethereum into the critical global domain is a problem for me. So I think this company has hired the wrong advisors, the wrong people advising them. They need to immediately reach out to Bitcoin Core developers and check with other people as to whether the Ethereum technology is stable enough to be brought to the traditional marketplace. Because, and again, this is how traditional companies could get wiped out. This is how Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, companies that have been around for decades, fail because they go into something stupid like derivatives of subprime mortgages, right? So something as dumb as one financial product can literally eliminate hundreds of thousands of jobs because your company started collateralizing, something really, really bad that collapsed from under you.
So we shall see. CFTC hasn't approved it yet. And Tone, I'm going to put you on the spot. Cliff High, scam or not scam?
Oh, God. Okay, before I answer that, I saw a very interesting question going through live stream as I was talking about the cloud mining, because someone disagreed with me that something like Genesis mining and BitClub will inevitably be a Ponzi scheme. And what that person hasn't considered is the MLM aspect of those companies. Because when I bring in my friends into BitClub, I get a percentage from them off the top. So that means every person that comes into BitClub, they are at a disadvantage because a part of that money goes to me by bringing them in, as opposed to them buying mining equipment. And that builds on top of itself like every other MLM scheme, that where the effort becomes bringing more people into the system than the functionality of the system. That's why they are inevitably become Ponzi schemes. And there's really no reversing that product because you promise people that you will make money off of your friends. That's the MLM style, which has always turned into Ponzi's. The way traditional MLMs get around turning into Ponzi's is that they sell you an overpriced product. Like go to Amway, go to Mary Kay, go to Organo Gold with their coffee. Like they make up for that by selling you, a $5 bag of coffee for $10, right? So they're making money on that. They overprice it just so your friends would buy it from you. But in this case, it's hard to overprice the miners. So we'll see where it goes. All right. Anyway, enough of that. All right.
You're not getting out of this one.
Oh God. So Cliff High, scam or not scam? So, okay. So here's the deal, right? I've gotten some really interesting feedback on my interview with Cliff High. Some people are calling him a charlatan. and some people have been following him for a long time and really like his work. And most people are in the middle. They just enjoyed the interview. So the goal of that interview was to ask Cliff very skeptical questions. And people in the audience can go ahead and fact check some of his answers, or at least see where he's coming from. In my opinion, right, like, to me, Ethereum is a bigger scam than Cliff High, or a lot of these ICOs are. And I'm not saying Cliff High is a scam yet, but here's the deal, right? Cliff is offering you a report that you can voluntarily pay for, and you immediately get that report. Now, he's not taking money from you and saying, I will give me your money, and then maybe I'll write the report later, right? He's offering you a report. Now, you don't have to buy this report, right? If you believe in his work, if you believe in the web bot, you go and buy the report, right? Like, who am I to say that, like, for example, is a psychic on the corner of your block a scammer? Leah, let me pose the question back to you. Like, when you walk around DC and you see these shops that say, I'm a psychic for $10, is that psychic a scammer?
Depends on your view. Depends on each person's decision.
Right.
I would probably say absolutely yes, but
right. But the government clearly disagrees with you, right? Otherwise, there wouldn't be all these shops all over town, right?
Sure. You
right?
Do have me there.
Right. So, I mean, do I believe in the web bot? The answer is no, I don't, right? But just because, do I believe in psychics and you don't either? Clearly, we don't believe in walking into psychics and getting our palms read. But, you know, if we have enough alcohol in us and our friends are pushing us, we'll probably do it, right?
Probably. I know that that's happened in the past.
Exactly, right? Okay, I got you on that one. Hasn't happened to me yet. But the idea is, right, like, if you believe in that, psychic, then sure, then it's perfectly fine. So I don't really have a problem with what Cliff's doing, right? Now, do I believe in it? The answer is no, but, like, I don't believe in a lot of things. Like, I don't believe Ethereum's sustainable either, right? So that's the difference. And he's just offering you a service, offering you a report. I also don't buy other people's reports. I don't like subscription services. And here's the best part. Cliff isn't even charging you a subscription. I'm a big fan of, hey, these are one-offs. I write a report. Here's what it costs. If you want it, you buy it. If you don't want it, you don't buy it. So I just don't have a problem with Cliff's business model at all. To me, the scam is the business model, not necessarily the product, as long as the product is exactly what you're selling. He doesn't lie about what's in the product. The product is, I wrote the web bot, I interpret the web bot. Here is my interpretation of the linguistics of the internet. It costs $100 or whatever it costs. And it's priced actually very reasonable. The one that I paid for was $10, just like the psychics on the street. They're $10, right? Like, you're not going to be out a lot of money here. So again, I do not have a problem with what he does, whether I believe in it or not. So the answer is not a scam, but I don't have to believe in the product. Like, to me, his product makes as much sense as IOTA, as much sense as Ethereum, as much sense as almost all of these altcoins. Like the product itself doesn't make sense, but the way he's marketing the product, the way he's selling the product is significantly, like, more legit, or in fact legit, than these altcoin securities on speculation. Like, if he launches an ICO, we'll talk again. But for now, there you go. That's my answer. Does that explain it?
Does. And he did mention potentially launching an ICO, right? So
I don't know why I asked that. It just seemed interesting.
This is a good question. So I guess jury's out. I definitely saw people on both sides of the fence. I'm in agreement with you. But
just to clarify, the reason why my report was $10 is because I bought it in, like, 2010. So the 2010 report that I paid for was $10. I finally read it in full, like, yesterday, but I've had it for 8 years. I didn't even know I had it. I found it recently by cleaning out an old hard drive.
It didn't go unnoticed what websites you were definitely checking out that time period too. All right, price. Bitcoin had a bullish surge yesterday, but hit strong overhead resistance, right? And tumbled down to 8,900. So what's up?
All right, so yeah, yesterday we did this video. I think we were looking good. Sorry I didn't give you the evening show yesterday. Just got really, really busy. And the weekly chart is once again in the middle of nowhere, right? This isn't bearish yet. We're still kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like, I really want to see this Sunday's close above the close of the week of the 12th, which was 10,500. So I really want to see 10,500 broken by Sunday evening and stay there in order for me to start considering bullish trends. On the bearish side, we have to go in the opposite direction, and probably next week. So I would, in order for me to go bearish, we would really need to close in the vicinity of 8,000 and then trade lower next week. So that's what makes me bearish. Right now, the weekly chart is totally neutral to me, and not sure where it's going. The daily chart, the only good news I can tell you is that we're almost on a 9. But in order to get a 9, we would actually need a new daily closing low, which would create a bit of a conflict, because I would most likely consider that 9 a not a reversal 9, but a continuation 9. So normally I want to see 9s show up so I can try to time the bounce to the upside. In this case, if a 9 actually shows up and tomorrow's candle closes on a 9, it's going to close at a brand new daily low, which potentially can lead to the touch of this downward trend line below $8,000. Now, the last thing I want to see is Bitcoin below 7,600 on daily basis. As long as we stay in this triangle, we have a chance. And I drew this trend line from this trend line is not bad. I'm going to try and keep an eye on it. And all right, chart's getting a little cluttered. Let me remove this and this. Love the customization of the new indicator. So much cleaner. Where's my data? I don't know where my data is. But anyway, so here's the latest chart, and it's supposed to still show me the number on the current candle. Not sure why it's not. Interesting. Man, maybe there's a minor bug that oh, that's why, because I hit that. Okay. All right. Well, again, testing on live air. Either that or I should refresh my chart. Should probably refresh my chart. Sorry, guys. All right. Let me try this again. Testing on live air once again. Thought we tested all of this. There it is. Now it's working. I just had to refresh. So this way I can like zoom in and zoom out and not be cluttered. So, oh, wow, my data wasn't even updated. Haha, that chart just kind of got frozen in time. So I wasn't even looking at the right candle. There we go. We're still on an 8 candle. It's not as down of a candle as I saw a minute ago. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm waiting to see tomorrow. Like right now, we're in this range, and this candle means absolutely nothing. So the daily is totally neutral. And tomorrow is going to be the big day to evaluate what happens with an 8. I'll definitely bring you trading Bitcoin tomorrow evening when tomorrow's candle is closing. I'll try to bring you one tonight as well. The 4-hour chart pulled into the cross and sold off. That is how textbooks should have it. We are on a deferred 13. We'll get to the 13 hopefully if we fall a little bit lower. I don't want us to fall lower. The 4-hour chart has a bearish tone to it. I don't like it. And the 1-hour chart is totally neutral. I mean, everything is kind of neutral. Let's look at the 12-hour chart. People seem to love that one. And the 4-hour chart gave you a nice timing on the lows with a 913 on the same day, gave you a little bit of a bounce, certainly a tradable bounce, right? You went from you went from the middle of that candle being 9,000 over the next 4 to 5 candles up to 9,800. Your stop loss, the stop loss was interesting. The stop loss should have been below the swing low, which was at around 8,300. But once you started to go up, I wouldn't blame anyone for raising their stop loss to break even, in which case you would have been stopped out. So it depends on how loose you are with your trading positions. But yeah, so I'm just completely neutral right now, which is another reason why I didn't feel the need to bring you trading Bitcoin last night, because nothing really happened. And I don't expect anything to happen today. I expect a lot of stuff. I expect tomorrow to be the important day. I don't really see much happening today. More sideways action. And we might have some sideways action for the rest of the month. We will find out.
All right.
Oh, totally failed on that 20 minutes, but at least we got through the news quickly.
That's true. All right. Well, let's hope we rally, that we find that comfortable 9 on the setup or the 13 on the countdown, which I like, and get out of being stuck in this neutral middle. Thank you, everybody. And again, thanks, World Crypto Network.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.